Hello, I'm Michael of M.O.D Catering Services. Don't forget to subscribe. So today you're going to decorate this beautiful 6-tier pillow cake, and we started by making our fruit cake batter, of course our yummy fruit cake batter. So after baking, I decided to just trim off the excess directly in the pan. So I'll show you how I did that. Trimming in the pan is way easier than taking out your cake and trimming, because you might end up having one part taller than the other. So we decided to bake a full pan of our yummy fruit cake, and I trimmed off the excess. So here I have a pillow cake, one part of the pillow cake. After sandwiching with buttercream, I added a filling cream, and I took out the other half and I just layered that. And I'm going to set this aside and just do the other one. So I did a little crumb coating. I crumb coated it and I just set that one aside, and then I'll show you how I did the trimming of our cake. Good. So here in our pan, we just cut off the excess. We use the pan as our guide, and we cut off without digging down into our cake. So we have our second one. I'm just going to cut. Yes, I'm using the pan as the guide. So I'm just going to trim off the excess cake, which is way taller than our cake pan. So after trimming, I just trim off the excess and keep the crumbs in a different bowl, because it will be of good use. Then here we are going to just layer our second cake with our buttercream and our filling cream as well. I normally use my star filling cream. I use their strawberry this time around. So after sandwiching with our buttercream, I'm going to add our filling cream, then add our next layer of our yummy fruit cake. I decided to use fruit cake because I didn't want any wahala while delivering this cake, because even using the fruit cake, I was in doubt because our cakes are mostly moist. So I decided to go in for a bit of a tough cake layer. So here I decided to stack them to see how it's going to fit. Afterwards, I had a lady fill in the other pan, the other sides of the cake with cake crumb and buttercream, so that we fill in all those opened up spaces, so we don't end up putting in more buttercream. So here it wasn't that much, but the other one had a bit of a bigger space, so we had to fill in with our cake crumbs. So I'm going to crumb coat this one. You have to do it gently, because if you don't, you end up having some of your cakes coming off. So after filling in, this is how it came out. So I'm going to just add a bit of water to make our cream so smooth and pliable. And here we go. Our buttercream is also, we have our buttercream recipe in our video, so when you go through, you see our American buttercream recipe. It's so easy, you have to try it out. So here I added more water and started crumb coating and filling in so that every part gets covered. So that's Bridget. She wanted to come into the video, and yeah, you know how we do it. You can't stop her. So there she is, and that's Abby as well. They all wanted to be seen in the video. They are saying hello to you guys. All right, so we are going to fill in all the necessary space, and every part there is cake, we have to make sure we are filling in with buttercream. We are covering with buttercream. So afterwards, we just set it aside. Then we cover with our fondant. So here we make sure we are covering the whole base with buttercream as well. We add more water if it dries out, and we just keep applying and making sure every part gets coated with buttercream. So here we are going to cover with our fondant, and here the covering is so easy, it's not too difficult. You make sure you cover your whole cakes, that's the whole side, with your fondant, and make sure no side is being exposed. So when you get to the corner, you just pull it out and make sure it fills down to this the base of your pillow cake. You know how pillow cake is, it's heavy, so you have to make sure your fondant is covering each corner of the pillow. And I'll also teach you another technique with the other one when covering. We had our 40 already covered, we couldn't take everything, so the last two I decided to show you two ways of covering them. So here we trim off the excess, then we just gently push down our fondant, push it at the corner, so we make sure it fits the base, then we just gently pull it well to cover the whole base. So when you are done, we are just going to use a small palette knife to trim off the excess fondant. So here we flip our cake and make sure we cover the whole base. We flip the cake and cover the whole base, and if it's not sticking, buttercream wet with water, same as ganache. So we add a bit of water to help our fondant stick to our cake. So we trim off the whole excess. Then we do so with all the sides. Make sure you don't cut more than you're supposed to, because if you do so, your cake is going to be exposed, and if it gets exposed, you have to find better ways to hide that. And here I had my students coming in to help out. Mostly I do call them when there are certain cakes they've not covered before, so they get to learn. So I allowed Aunt Sarah cover this particular one for us, and this is where I'll show you how to cover the other technique used in covering this one. So as you can see, you can drag or you can pull your fondant to make sure it's covering the whole base. So we covered the whole sides and left the 4 corners. That's when I'll show you the technique used in covering those corners. So after covering our whole base with our cake, we go in for our fondant smoother. Yes, every baker has this too. So we go in for our fondant smoother, and we are just going to gold. So this is the first cut. This is how it will look like after cutting out. So we get our fondant and we press together. Wherever there's excess fondant, we just press together, we take it off, then we keep pressing, we keep pressing, we keep pressing. When you're done, we just cut off the tiny little bit left with scissors. Then voila, we have our beautiful covered cake. So here, to turn our pillow and cover the base, we need to put tissue. We have to put tissue on top of the cake so the cake doesn't end up stressing or straining itself on the cake board. The cake board is hard. So we added some pile of tissue and flipped the cake on the tissue. So here we just make sure our fondant is lying on our cake. Then we keep on cutting any excess. Then we have this cake card. We have to just put the cake card beneath our cake. So here we have our tissue off and our cake is still standing beautifully. So this is what we call the quilting effect. It's a mat, we have them. So you just make sure, since our pillow cake is curvy, you have to make sure the quilting mat is being, you lay your quilting mat on the curved part of your pillow, then you gently, after making sure you leave your print, you gently lift it onto your main cake. If you don't do it that way, you might end up losing the quilting effect. So that particular effect is called quilting effect. If you don't gently press it on the side of your curved cake, then gently lift it onto your main pillow cake, you might end up losing the whole effect as you are doing it. So if you want to quilt a pillow cake, this is the best way to go in for. So you're just going to do all 4 sides. When we are done, we use our tracing wheel to trace out and get a detailed effect. So now we have our last part to quilt, then we can start using our tracing wheel. So as usual, we press it and make sure we are leaving the print onto our covered pillow cake. Then we gently push it onto the surface of our pillow cake to make sure the print is still there. Once we are done, we go in for our tracing wheel, then we can start tracing all the marks we got from our quilted mat. So we are just going to trace out the effect till we are done tracing the whole cake. Then we can start beading. We'll add our pearls with glue. Cakes, when you normally want to add pearls to your cake, you can just add them whilst the fondant is still soft, because with that one it sticks to the cake more than when it's hard. When it's hard, it go through a lot of stress before sticking them. So once the cake is soft, you can trace it as well. Don't wait till it hardens before you start tracing. It will crack up your fondant and it will break. So you trace them whilst it's soft, your fondant is soft, and you add your pearls whilst your fondant is still soft. So you need edible glue. So we apply that with edible glue. With edible glue, all you need is your CMC, maybe a teaspoon, and maybe 1 cup of chilled water, or a tablespoon of CMC and 1 cup of chilled water. It depends on whatever you are doing. With the tracing, roll, and quilting effect, you need a chair and you need to sit down, relax, and do it. If not, you end up missing a pattern and you end up making or end up losing the traces. So you make sure you get a chair, you sit down, you relax, and do it. When you check clearly, you can even see we missed some of the tracing and some are so close together. But in this case, we have to make sure we know where we are using for our front and where we are using for our back. So here we have our beautiful cake beaded and sitting beautiful. So we are going to just glitter the whole cake from home. So we just glitter our cake from home. Then we just go there with our already glittered cake. So all we need to do is just assemble them and arrange our flowers. So I'll be stacking them separately, 3 tiers separate, 3 tiers separate. So I had to tape more and more and more and more of our sugar flowers to complement our cake design. So here we just arranged them. It wasn't fully done. We were just checking from home how it's going to look like when we get to the venue. And if we need extra flowers, we just take them along. So afterwards, we had to assemble our sugar flowers and steam them. We don't want to go to the venue with unsteamed sugar flowers, so we ended up steaming the whole sugar flowers and making sure they are so beautiful and ready to be transported and dried as well. So here we had to trim off our excess fondant on our cake board. Then we add our last layer because I wanted to transport them 3 which are separately. So we added our last layer after trimming and cleaning our whole cake board. So we are going to add our last layer to this particular tier. Then we transport them separately. So you have to gently shift the cake from the cake board and make sure it's not messing up your cake. So I have to do it gentle. Some parts got open, but no problem. Then I lifted it up onto our 2 stacked tiers. So here I steamed it and it wasn't completely dried. So I had to just go in for corn flour to help us stick our fondant onto the other tier because it was a bit opened. So I had to just push it back and we were done. So I had to continue steaming our cake so that when we are done and when we get to the venue, we can just add our flowers and shimmer or do a last shimmering effect. So we steamed both tiers and that's how we were able to transport them straight to the venue. When we got there, it was a church reception and we had to quickly set up our cake, finish up everything and arrange our sugar flowers. So here we stacked the cake together, which is our 6th tier. We had to go back and see if everything was straight and on point. Then we had to quickly start arranging our flowers. So our event decorator planner came in and was like, can we do anything about the flowers? And we were like, what color would they prefer? And he said peach. We just quickly grabbed our airbrush, mixed our medium skin color with our edible spirit, and we started airbrushing the whole sugar flowers peach because it was all white. We did our flowers white, everything was white, but since he wanted a touch of peach, we had to just airbrush the whole flowers from the top tier to the bottom tier peach. And of course, it was beautiful, everything was on point. We continued arranging our flowers, which are sugar flowers, at the whole bottom tier. Then we added our filler flowers because we took in a lot, uncountable sugar flowers to the venue, and we had to make sure every part of our cake was being filled with sugar flowers, even including some of the tiers. So we had to arrange the whole cake, the whole base with sugar flowers and filler flowers as well. So we had blossoms and we had some smaller bats which we used for the whole cake. When we are done, we have started arranging on the 4 corners of our 3rd tier pillow cake. We started arranging some of our flowers at the corners. Yes, we have started arranging them, filling up every space. So we're going to add all the flowers. When you are done, you are just going to fill in with our filler flowers. They are called filler flowers because we normally use them to fill in any space left after arranging our sugar flowers. So we just keep adding more and more and more of the filler flowers. So here was when the event decorator asked us to change the color or if we could do something about it, and we told him it's possible. So we kept adding our sugar flowers. When we were done, then we moved on to our filler flowers and we started filling in the whole cake from top to the bottom tier with sugar filler flowers. And of course, we ended up coming up with a beautiful masterpiece for the couples. They loved it, they were happy, everyone was happy, and we can't wait to be a part of your big day. It means a lot to us, and it's also special to us as well. So here we started adding our sugar filler flowers. Everything was edible. Everything we used for this cake was edible. No artificial flowers, except the wires we used for the flowers. Everything was edible. So now we are just going to finish up the whole cake design. After adding our filler flowers, we just add some of the sugar flowers to the top tier and filler flowers as well to the top tier. So all we needed to do now was just fill in with our filler flowers until we realized our cake was good enough to be presented to our couple. And trust me, they loved the cake, every part of it. They came up with their cake design, and I decided to change the whole design because I normally don't like doing a design done by a colleague baker. I'd rather twist it up or change something about it or go in my own way. So decided to just do something unique for the couple, and of course they loved everything about it. So here we were almost done setting up, and we had to clear up and clean our whole wet surface, and we airbrushed the sugar flowers into our peach color. So here is our wedding cake. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Michael of M.O.D Catering Services. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.